In every episode, Hisham, you ask this one big question to your guests. You always ask them at some point in the episode, what is the high performance mindset? So please allow me, Hisham, to ask you the same question. From your perspective, what is the high performance mindset?
Just a side note, when I started the show, I thought everybody would have around 3 answers. They'll all be similar, but everybody had their own version. I'm very surprised by that finding.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions on that, but first I want to hear your take on this.
So for my take would be, is like we just mentioned earlier, is really putting emphasis on how you show up on training day. So that anything you're going to do is long term. You have to play the long game. If anything great is not achieved overnight. And once you understand that and you don't give emphasis on talent, you know where to put your effort. That's one element. Another element is having clarity. You have to know what you want to achieve, why you want to achieve it, and on a macro level, how you're going to go about it. You're not going to know every detail on the way. Yes, you're going to be asking a lot of questions, because if you don't, then you won't be improving, you know. But you have to have a very clear outlook for what you want to achieve, because motivation is very...
it's a fickle thing, man.
Exactly. So
you have it today, you don't have it tomorrow.
So what happens? You don't show up tomorrow?
So unreliable.
Of course not. Yeah. Like, regardless of how you feel, you have to show up. So unless you have a strong why, you won't have that drive. There is no way you're going to have a strong drive unless you have a strong why.
And even if you do have a strong why, you can't rely on how you're feeling. Like, that's what motivation is. You wake up one day and you have this why, and the why is driving how you're feeling, and so you go and you do it. And it feels amazing. But tomorrow you might, I don't know, wake up a little extra tired. Or you're going through a life situation, so you're not quite feeling it. What then? You just not go to the gym, for example?
Which I feel brings to the next point, like, which you need to focus on is trying to be efficient. Constantly trying to be more efficient with your time and energy, because you are very obsessed with performing well in anything that you do, whether it's your family, whether you never feel it's enough, because, which is, I love it, like in our religion, in Islam, you get appreciated or rewarded for your effort, not for the results. يعني مثلا Sayyidina Ayub was bedridden. He wasn't moving around, so somebody from outside would be like, yeah, he's doing nothing. No, his sabr was to not complain and just to continue thanking Allah, right? While things were just getting worse around him, right? So from somebody outside, they'd be like, okay, so where are the tangible results? And I heard something very interesting, that Allah showed us the value of tangible things, but He didn't show us the value of the effort we make.
Could you explain?
Like, let's say anything to do with thawab, we'll only know in the afterworld. We'll know how much like benefit we were getting from, let's say, holding or suppressing our anger, or, you know, keeping it in check. Us maybe trying to push to be there for Salat al-Fajr, you know, how much reward, we don't see it, you know. But He let us know the value of, I know what's the value, let's say, of gold. I know what's the value of this and that. We can see it. If I have this, I can do X, Y, Z with these things.
Right.
But when it comes to the intangibles, like, It's just having faith, which goes down now. You're talking about high performance mindset. You have to believe in it. You can't wait for anyone else to come and tap on your shoulder, because people will. But at the beginning, you're going to have to go and, through it yourself, do all the mistakes yourself on your expense. Mm-hmm. And then once you start getting it right, yes, people will start applauding. But you shouldn't be driven by that, because once you start getting that, maybe you'll start slowing down, which you see it with a lot of professional athletes, let's say, once they reach a certain level. And then you have the ones who just never stopped improving.
Yeah. So let's recap. According to Hisham, what is the high performance mindset? Give me some words.
I would say having a very sense of clarity, not relying on talent, but relying on effort, aiming to be the hardest working, like that's where you take your pride. Having strong why, and making sure that you remove every type of friction that can get in the way, anything that will pull you away. So basically creating the right environment. And that's how you don't rely on motivation, but you're creating systems that can be sustainable.
I like that. And I would like to also see what you've learned through your conversations on your podcast. So your podcast aims to dissect the mental dialogue that these high performers have, right? Have you noticed any unexpected patterns across the different fields?
Well, one thing for sure is that a lot of them, whatever would think they would find as a challenge, they found a way of enjoying the process.
Enjoying the process.
Yeah. They were not obsessed a lot on the end goal. It's just as a direction, but and then they're very much immersed in the journey.
So you noticed that amongst most of your guests that the process was enjoyable to them.
Yeah.
Right, because there's some things where the process is not fun, but you just have to push through in order to get to a certain point, no?
Absolutely.
So how do you learn how to enjoy a painful process that might not be coming natural to you? Yeah?
Honestly, a lot of times what you end up, let's say you have a weak area. For me, let's say when I was preparing for the Ironman race.
Right, which you participated twice, no?
Twice, alhamdulillah, yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
And the swimming, I hated the swimming. It was just so bad in the swimming. I just kept drinking water, lose my breath. I remember when swimming 150 or 200 meters was an achievement.
Wow. That would be an achievement for me today, for sure. Yeah.
But I stayed at it. I got a coach. It was a very dreadful journey, showing up at, God knows what time, 6:30. Let's say water's cold.
So how do you enjoy that?
At the beginning, you don't. You hate it. But once it starts improving and you start seeing results, which you don't for a long time, depending on how bad you are. For me, I was just showing up and not seeing any results, just pain, and show up again, and that's all you get. And then suddenly a few things click and you're like, okay, and now I really enjoy it. So I think a lot of times the areas that we find challenging, once we put a lot of effort and we start seeing results, the relationship starts changing. And that could be maybe even with a person that you're dealing with.
Yeah. A difficult person.
Yeah. Once you start seeing results, it changes.
Yeah, you start liking them a little more.
Yes. Perfectly said.
That's interesting. So enjoying the process, I think that's a good insight. Is there anything unexpected also? It's because there are the expected stuff that you mentioned already. Having tenacity, not relying on just how you're feeling or motivation. I think motivation is one of the biggest in my opinion, one of the biggest things that lead people astray, because then they start blaming themselves for not having motivation. Discipline over motivation any day of the week. But I feel like this people know. Is there anything else that's unexpected that you notice that these guests had in common?
I mean, you can't have, you can be performing, at a high level consistently without being organized. You just have to have that part of your life sorted.
How would you define being organized? Could you give me an example?
Everyone has their own, schedule. Having, let's say, like Dr. Noreen, her schedule is different since she's a surgeon, working around the clock. It's different when you have another guest who, let's say, is structured that they're going to do their workout in the morning, then they're going to go to work. And I see that they have very clear structure and routines. They don't change that routine.
Do you notice, do they all have a calendar that they keep?
Absolutely.
You see, that's interesting. I feel like that's underrated. People who, wallah, you think, to me it feels natural to keep a calendar, because what am I going to rely on my memory? I can't rely on my memory. No. I rely on past Abdullah to tell future Abdullah what to do. Right?
It really enhances your performance, because it gives you more clarity and space and bandwidth to think about what's important rather than trying to remember, what did I forget?
Say it loud for the people of back, man. I need some people to listen to this. Okay?
Yeah,
Keep a calendar.
It's very, it seems very, especially if it's not your thing, it seems very tedious, but 100% it's worth it.